I'm gonna be honest with y'all real quick. A ton of people, myself included on YouTube, have been talking about how to get your first deal in real estate investing, but at the same time, talking about how the market might crash soon and interest rates are going up and things are all over the place. That is a super tough place to be, and because those traditional methods are getting harder and harder, I have started thinking about a new way to get deals with creative financing. In this video, I got the chance to talk to a dozen experienced investors, and they all echoed the same thing, that things are getting harder in the traditional way of investing in real estate. I even found out that my local credit union, who I use to finance a lot of the BRRRRs I'm doing, is no longer taking on new projects for the rest of 2022 because they want to see where the market's going to end up. So if things are getting harder for experienced investors, I think we have to acknowledge that it's definitely getting harder for new investors. I have decided that now is the time to learn about alternative ways of investing and using creative finance. And as I learn those things, I want to share those lessons with you. You may have seen a small bit of my conversation with the king of creative financing, Pace Morby, in that last video, but today I want you to listen in to the full 15-minute conversation that Pace and I had. And if you enjoy that, you're definitely going to enjoy my new podcast, Listen In with Lili Invest. The first hour-long episode is live now on my new podcast channel, where I talk with Jamil Damji about how he made a second go at real estate investing after going bankrupt during the market crash of 2008. Listen in to this shorter conversation with Pace about creative financing, and when you're done, head over to the new podcast channel to become one of the first subscribers and listen to that conversation with Jamil. But for now, let's talk to Pace. Let's start with this. Can you tell us who you are, where you are, and what you do in real estate?
My name is Pace Morby. I live in Phoenix, Arizona. I've been here for quite a while. My experience in real estate was starting out as a contractor, got into fixing and flipping, wholesale, and now this year, my business consists of 9 different businesses. We have owned title and escrow businesses, lending businesses, Airbnb businesses, and we'll close out on close to 1,000 doors in multifamily this year alone, all using creative finance. So doing a lot.
Very, very cool. Can you take us back to the beginning and tell us about your very first deal?
Yes, the beginning was when I was a contractor. And oh my gosh, I just had a deep conversation with my wife today about exiting the matrix mentally and realizing that way more is possible in life than what was programmed into us from church and school and our parents and our friends and siblings and all that kind of stuff. And I remember the first deal I did was with a lady named Janie Munson. It was a mailer. Okay, so I sent a mailer. I didn't even know what a mailer was. Somebody told me just send out mailers. So I sent out a mailer, I get a call back. It was literally the third call I got. The first 2 I missed and I could never get a hold of them. Third call I got, lady calls me. She says, hey, I'm retiring. I'm going to move up to Oregon and I'm done being a school teacher. I was like, okay, cool. So on my drive up there, I call somebody, the same person that told me to send out postcards. And I said, dude, I don't even know what to offer this lady. I don't even know what I'm doing. You told me just to get started, but I don't even know what I'm doing. So I go up there and he says, offer her $150,000. That's the max you can pay on this house. So you can imagine this is a long time ago because the average sales price in Phoenix now is $450. So this is a long time ago. And I get up there and I start talking to Janie and she says, I asked this wonderful question. I said, so I imagine you're probably talking to other investors. Why haven't you already sold your house? She says, well, I've got an offer at 165 and it's not high enough. And I go, okay, well, I can tell you, I can't help you. I can't get that high. I'm so sorry. I can't get that high. And she says, okay, no problem. Have a great day. Thanks for being honest. Everybody else was trying to beat up my house and try and whittle me down and all this kind of stuff. So as I'm leaving the house, I turn around, I go, is there anything I can help you with? I know you're trying to move up to Oregon. I've got construction crews and guys that can help you load your truck. She's like, you want to help me? Even though you're not buying my house? I said, yeah, I want to help you. She goes, you're serious? You want to help me? I go, yep, I want to help you. So she takes me to the backyard. She shows me these freaking humongous bunnies. And she says, if you can find a home for these things, I'll be super grateful. So I call my mom on speakerphone. No joke. This is literally my first deal. And I call my mom on speakerphone. My mom is a mother of 12 kids. She's had goats and chickens. She's a farm girl. And so I call my mom. I go, Mom, can you help this lady, Janie, rehome these bunnies? My mom's there in 45 minutes, takes these bunnies, rehomes the bunnies, and I leave. 2 weeks later, I get a call from Janie and she goes, Pace, I want to sell my house to you. I go, Janie, I told you I can't pay anything more than, I can't go up to the 165 that you already got an offer on. She goes, I don't care. Whatever the number is that you're willing to offer me, I want to sell my house to you. I said, I'm clueless as to what's going on here. And she says, you are the only person that took the time to care about my situation. Everybody else is trying to renegotiate with me, fight with me, and they're just treating me in an abusive manner. So whatever your number is, I'm sure you're going to be reasonable. Bring a contract and let's sign today. I didn't even know how to sign a contract. So my wife was a real estate agent, still is, and she knew how to sign a contract. So I took my wife up there and we get the contract, but I had never done an assignment contract before. So the guy who gave me the number, I assigned it to him and I made $25,000 on my first deal.
And was it that 150 that you got the property
I gave her the 150. Yeah.
That's awesome. You could have gone lower. She probably would have taken it.
The reason why this story is so important to me is like the number one thing I'm always looking for when I'm talking to a seller is I'm looking for their bunnies. Mm-hmm. Like where are your bunnies? What is the thing that I can bring to the table that somebody else can't? Where I just got to get one layer deeper to understand your situation. Like last night I got a seller finance deal, 0 down, 0% interest. And it was because I understood the lady was retired, kind of similar situation. And she had one thing she cared about. It was letting her tenants who's been in the property for 10 years. She said, I want to sell the property to somebody that will let my tenants stay in the property for another 2 years. I go, no problem. Let's figure out something that works for both. And I'll put in the contract your tenants can stay there for 2 more years. And I won. So I'm just always looking for the bunnies. And I'm so grateful to Janie Munson because I learned that lesson on my first deal.
That's so awesome. Shout out to your mom.
Oh, shout out to my mom. She's a saint.
That's clutch. That's super clutch.
Yeah.
I love that. Yeah, just like helping people. It's crazy you say that because my first deal was very similar in the sense of I did like the double dip Jerry Norton strategy. So the listing agent, it was on market, but it was really in bad shape because she had wanted an open floor plan kitchen and got a contractor who didn't know what they were doing, and they knocked out some pillars that were load bearing. And so, it was just in bad shape. It was going to have to go to an investor. But her thing was, it was very nearly a hoarder house. And I just found out that like she needed some extra time and she needed to be able to leave anything in the house that she wasn't going to take. And she needed a moving truck. And those were the bunnies, like you say.
If you can learn that in this business early on, because I remember trying to get into the business in the very beginning, I told a buddy of mine, I said, hey, I'm thinking about getting into this business. He goes, oh, you're going to be one of those guys that steals people's equity. Mm-hmm. And I felt really bad about that, Lily. Like I really was like, wow, do I really want to be in this business? And then I was so lucky that the third person that called me was Janie, because I learned that lesson so early on that every single person I've ever done a deal with has bunnies. They have a crappy situation. They need a moving truck. They needed this. They need more time. They need some cash in their pocket before you close escrow. You've probably done a deal like that before too, where we had a deal where a guy goes, I can't close escrow for 30 days, but my power's off and I have no groceries. It's like, okay, let's catch up your power bill. Let's get the AC going. Arizona's 120 degrees in July. We went to Walmart, filled his fridge. Those types of things. If I knew that that's what this business was all about, I would have started 10 years earlier.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love that that's your approach to it. Do you have another deal that stands out, whether it be your best deal, your most creative deal, the deal you're most proud of, anything like that?
I would tell you the first deal I ever did was actually not that. That was the first real estate deal that I did. But the first deal that actually changed everything for me was actually a deal that was my truck. I don't know if you've ever heard the F-150 story.
I haven't.
Oh my gosh, it's so great. So the way I really got into creative finance is I was a contractor and I was very creative in the way I built my business. So what I did is I went to home flippers and Open Door and OfferPad and Zillow, and I would say, hey, I'll front your construction costs as long as you don't try and grind me on prices. So I would literally pay for all the construction and then they would sell the house. And then I would get paid when their buyer came in with their money. Super creative. And I was making $10,000, $15,000 more per project than any other contractor was able to because I was willing to float the construction costs. Well, my wife knew this about me and, everybody in town knew this about me. And so my construction business blew up because of this creative approach to, building a business. And so one day I get a F-150 and it hit like 320,000 miles. And I go, I got to take this truck and get it out of my company. It just doesn't make sense. It's starting to have more issues than what it's worth, kind of like a rental property, right? It's like starting to have more issues. Maybe it's time to sell this one, liquidate, move on to the next deal, and 1031 into the next deal. So I was like, I'll sell this truck, put the money towards a down payment on a newer truck. So I put it on Craigslist, but before I go to Craigslist, I check, what do I check? I check Kelley Blue Book, just like a homeowner would check Zillow, And my Zillow price on my truck, or my Kelley Blue Book price, was $5,000. I'm like, $5,000? Like, that's not, are you kidding me? So I belligerently put my truck on Craigslist for $10,000. And why is this so important? I'm going to tell you the punchline in a little bit, but there's a very important parallel here. That $10,000, I of course didn't sell that truck. It sat on Craigslist for 3 months. My wife comes into my office and she says, "Hey, sweetheart, like, I have to drive around this truck every day. Is there any way you can just sell this silly truck?" I'm like, "What do you want me to do? I don't, this thing's worth to me more than $5,000. And she's like, "It's not worth more than $5,000 to anybody else. The buyer determines the price, not you." Right? And this lesson was important for me because it obviously showed up later in real estate. So what happened is she goes, "You're the most creative guy I know. You always have a creative solution." She's like, "Why don't you come up with like selling your truck on payments?" And I go, "Okay." So Lili, I go back to Craigslist. I change one thing. I literally just changed my F-150. I go, F-150, $10,000, will take payments. I had to turn the Craigslist ad off in like 30 minutes. I was overwhelmed by calls. And I was like, oh my gosh, I'm onto something. This is the most genius thing ever. I sold that truck for $12,500 with $1,000 down and $350 payments every single month. And I was like, holy moly. I untapped, like it was like exiting the matrix. I was like in a whole new world, right? So now when a seller says, what is creative finance, or what are terms, or what is subject to, or what's seller finance, I literally tell them my F-150 story. That's how I explain sub to. That's how I explain seller finance. And every single time they get it. And that's why I'm so good at closing creative finance deals, is because I sold my truck on creative finance 10 years ago. And it was the most important deal I had ever done. I had no idea it was going to tie so much into real estate, but now so many people have heard that story. I hear them telling that story to their sellers, and people DM me and go, "Pace, I told your F-150 story to a seller and explained seller finance, and I got a blah, 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 blah." So I had no idea, but that truck and that story has made probably thousands of people millions and millions of dollars. So that was the most important deal I've ever done in my life.
I love that. I love how you took from other life experience. Like, we all have things that we're doing before real estate. Yeah, I love how you took and applied that. That is super cool. It's the way to do it. It's the way to do it. I have really cool deals now. Like, I just closed a 43 unit multifamily, 0 down, 50-year mortgage with the seller, 4% interest, and cash flowing like $12,000 a month, right? Net cash flowing $12,000. I just closed on it. I just closed on a 408 unit deal in Charlotte, and I couldn't care any less about those. The most important deal still to this day is my F-150. And the bunnies. That's yes. Awesome. That's awesome. I love it. Well, I can kind of maybe see where this answer might go, but I've been asking everyone if they have a secret sauce or a competitive advantage that sets them apart. And if so, will you share it? Storytelling. All day long storytelling, giving people an understanding of what I'm trying to convey through a simple story. I mean, we're all barbaric. We come from caveman times. We wanted to sit around the fireplace and listen to each other talk. And it's the same thing with like the Native Americans. They drew on walls, and they didn't draw on words. They drew in pictures. And so if you can somehow convey a message to somebody through almost picture form by using your words, you will dominate everybody. You don't even have to be the highest offer. You don't have to be the most intelligent. But if you're the better storyteller and you're talking to sellers or even talking to an audience, you'll win every single time. And so understanding how to tie in analogies from everyday life and create a common thread through those analogies into what I'm trying to do is my competitive advantage. And people ask me all the time, how do you become a better storyteller? And I go, watch more movies, truly,
Watch more movies. Read a really phenomenal book is Story Brand by Donald Miller. Have you read that?
I haven't. I'll have to put it on my
Holy
list.
smokes, that's a good book.
Awesome. Awesome. I love that. I love that. Well, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for your time. And thanks for telling us all of your stories. They were super impactful. I'm definitely not going to forget them.
Good. You're amazing. I love watching you scale. I love watching what you're doing. Keep doing what you're doing. I'm like, when I see you on YouTube, I'm like, gosh, this girl's got it. She has got it.
I appreciate it, man. I really do. You guys probably feel the same way, but I'm super excited to dive into creative financing, and I'll be starting a new series on this channel where I try to get my first creative financing deal. In the meantime, make sure you head over to my new podcast channel, Listen In with Lili Invest, where you can see an hour-long conversation with me and Jamil Damji, all about how he became successful in real estate, lost it all in the market crash of 2008, and has found even more success since then. You can check out that first episode right here.